So LSS just spoiled the Armory deck for Ira, and I think that what's so interesting about it is that the new cards actually feel like they're right at home in Katsu. I think that actually they have the most application, and I think they give the biggest bump in power level to him specifically. So if you're unfamiliar with the deck, Katsu is a very proactive aggro to combo focused deck with a lot of emphasis on pushing ninja on hits. So specifically with the hero text, whenever you're hitting, you're tutoring through your deck for a combo card specifically. The new cards actually synergize the most with it, in my opinion. Traditionally, Katsu has played breaking scales as a way to, in reaction, give +1 to a combo card, let him push certain on hits through to finish out the combo, enabling the actual combo on hit or triggering Katsu to go get the rest of the combo on demand. The cool thing about the Scar Wraps is you just get this multiple times per game, which is a massive upgrade to how the deck wants to play. I think that you'll find it a little bit difficult to find enough ninja cards to really get this kind of payoff in Irem. She could play these combo lines, but she misses the actual tutor effect to actually make these consistent. But when you have a tutor on a hero power, very similar to Zen, your consistency for these kind of effects and the smoothness of the deck all gets ironed out. And so with the Scar Wraps, you're able to condense a ton of damage into a single turn, both with a tutor effect from Mask of the Pouncing Links, resource reduction with Hardened Cross Trap, and then go again access with Breeze Rider Boots. You can pressure so much damage in a single turn in addition to all the aggro you're outputting for the rest of the game. The thing that's really fascinating to me about Edge of Autumn specifically is the fact that traditionally you were never able to really send your second Kodachi and Katsu outside of drawing extra resources that you couldn't actually use efficiently on your turn. The reason why is because your opener usually is something like Surging Strike if you're actually pitching a card to play it. And so you could send one Kodachi into your Surging Strike and then play out the rest of your combo line, but you never actually really got to send the second Kodachi. So being restricted by having only one of your quote like daggers is not actually really an issue for this deck. It also doesn't play any of the dagger hit effect cards like Cut Through that Ira actually wanted to play. And so I really just don't think he's actually really hindered at all from the restrictions around these new cards. I think he only gets upside from them. So we'll run through the list because people may be unfamiliar with Katsu since it's been a very, very long time since he's been meta relevant. I used to play him a lot during the Uprising meta. I had a lot of fun playing him, so it feels good to be brewing this hero again. But to run through the new cards first, since that's probably why people are here, we're going to play Seek Vengeance. It obviously synergizes the arms, lets us get back our weapon, but it's also just a 0 for 4 go again. I mean, this is exactly like Gust Wave. So I really don't see any reason not to include it. I think it's very powerful for what it does, and it can be a chain ender. Vengeance Never Rests is a really powerful card. I mean, it's very similar to the Draconic one that we got in Hunted, the 1 for 4 that could replay itself conditionally. I mean, this is very similar, and it actually comes in a blue as a 3 block. I almost feel like it's more powerful in some regard, but of course, being a Vengeance card, very important for the game plan. No reason not to include it. And then Legacy of Ikaru is fantastic, right? I mean, this conditionally acts exactly the same as Ancestral Empowerment, but at a blue as well. I mean, there is just so much going on here in terms of power level for this deck. I actually had trouble finding slots for all these cards. I think you're really fighting over a lot of good slots. Down in the maybe board, we have Blue Seek Vengeance, just as more ways to get back your weapon. I'm not sure if we want to run the blues as well, but it's very possible you may want to. The hardest part for me is that the card is relatively weak and your blue slots feel so powerful because you have Dishonor, you have Ancestral Harmony just to really scale up your damage. You have Retrace of Past. This has been a huge upgrade to the deck. And of course you have blue Whelming Gust Wave. So it's just so difficult to cut any of these cards. I mean, blue Flusterfist as well is so important for your bonds target. It feels difficult to even cut that card. Yeah, the deck really feels like it's actually suffering from just having too many good options currently. Consistent line that you'll find in the deck is trying to get Surging Strike as your starter for the turn. That can either be a Surging Strike red or yellow, or it can be red Be Like Water. And the cool thing now is that you're actually able to buff these with the Scar Wraps, which previously you weren't able to do this, and so your opponent could block these out. And if you needed the Katsu hit to go tutor for, Whelming or Descending Gust Wave afterwards, your turn was pretty hindered, but the fact that now you can push it over if you really need to, you just get so much consistency added to the deck. Following up with your Surging Strike, you're looking at Whelming or Descending Gust Wave. We're running multiple copies of these because they're very powerful. Whelming is Snatch on hit with Go Again, and I think it's primarily what you'll want to play unless if you have access to a Dishonor line, or of course playing Gust Wave at the second wind. We can go play Bonds of Ancestry. Most of the time, you're going to just be tutoring for Flusterfist red. That way you can just play the bonds as a 0 for 4 with go again, play your free Flusterfist as a 0 for 4, and bonds essentially becomes a 0 for 8. There's some lines, when you play the deck a lot more, you'll see them where you can do crazy double combo lines, but that requires lots of cards available to you. Most of the time, you'll just be playing it like this. Enact Vengeance is also a new card that was added in the Armory deck. It is essentially CNC, but we can buff it up to 7 in reaction with the arms, and it's a combo card, so you're actually able to go get this and tutor it. So you have a tutorable CNC, which I just think is so powerful. I think that this deck has added so much with the fact that all these cards are combo cards and none of them are IRA specializations. It really feels like this deck was actually made for Katsu primarily. 1 copy of Salt the Wound just as a links target if you ever have an incredibly high damage turn with lots of chain links available to you. This can very easily get up to 6 to 8 damage, and it's a very good payoff. Once you're in that ballpark, I think it's perfectly fine to crack the headpiece for it. 100 wins is just a clean 0 for 3 that can be your opener, and if it hits, you can go tutor for the rest of your combo line, or if you just want to pressure a ton of damage, you can tutor for another 100 wins, play as a 0 for 4 afterwards. Dishonor is very good for very clear reasons. Turning off the hero's text box is very important, so if you're playing against a matchup where that's important, you can play this like a win con. For instance, against Kano, like this is a win con for the deck. I would imagine against Gravy it would be as well, so if you're in a matchup where it feels like it's very important, you can prioritize this higher than you would into other matchups. And then down our sideboard, we have a couple things that we're trying to keep in mind in terms of deck philosophy. It's how to deal with decks that want to block us out, and how do we deal against decks that don't want to block. So against aggro or decks where we need D-reacts, Flick Flack is very important, especially now that we got even more combo cards to add to the deck. I mean, all of these are now going to get buffed up. We have Razor Reflex. This is primarily for decks that want to block you, so you're able to kind of push some of the on hits over. And then if we're ever actually worried about real fatigue, you have the Mugenshi plus Lord of Wind combo lines. I mean, these just help recycle a ton of damage back in the deck, especially in the end game. It's one of the biggest final pushes you can get because it resets all of your copies of Surging and Gustwave. I primarily liked just running 3 Lord of Winds in the main board with 1 copy of Mugenshi, because if you ever actually get in the spot where you're able to just play them, it's actually a very high damage combo line that puts a lot of threats back in your deck, which is important because you're discarding a lot and you do end up running out of some of these combo cards. Like once you play the 3 copies of Red Whelming, the deck loses a little bit of its power sometimes, so putting them back in is good. I always like just having 1 copy and then 3 Lord of Wind in the deck, but because there's so many good cards now, they've been pushed down to the sideboard. And maybe it's possible that they actually come out of the list entirely, which is really baffling to say. But these new cards are just so powerful. I mean, I can't believe that these are blues. Snatch is very good into aggro mirrors, but I also imagine it's very good into Gravy. I think it'll be a pretty important part of winning that matchup, or at least really making it favored for you. But also, I would just really like playing this against something like Syndra. Just pushing anything that forces them to block inefficiently and lose damage or give you an above rate play line is very good in my opinion. The only reason to maybe be a little bit suspicious about running the card is the fact that you don't have snaps currently in the list, so it may be difficult to actually pressure this offensively, and you're going to be fighting over having a Chain Ender. And then we are running AB1. There is a possibility to run the new AB chest, so I will just add it right now in the maybe board, but I'm not actually sure if we have the slot for it or how important it will be. Having 2 resources against Kano and just pressuring them right out of the gate when they're at 30, I think is really powerful, and having that in the early game means you might actually get access to a Dishonor line you previously might not have had the availability to play. And if you're able to Dishonor Kano, you just win the game. So it's kind of weird. I'm not exactly sure where you're going to land on this card, but that is like the philosophy of the sideboard for now until we figure out like a more specific meta to tune for. But the idea is there where it's just, what do you do against a deck that wants to block you? What do you do against a deck that doesn't want to block you? And that's kind of how I went about it. So that's like the initial idea for the list. This is like, if I were to play this tomorrow, what would I register? This is kind of the thought process behind the deck, but it feels like it's gotten a lot of really good tools.